Hello there. Hi. Assalamu alaikum. This is Amna here from My English Matters. And today we are going to talk about native teachers and non native teachers. So I'm here with Madam Azimah today. How are you, Madam Azimah?
I'm great, thank you. I'm so excited to share with you all about native teachers versus non-native teachers. Let's talk about it. We're ready. Let's go.
All right. So, first of all, what is a native English teacher and what is a non native English teacher?
Okay, so let's assume that these teachers are qualified. So I want to talk about native speakers first, that we understand what that is. So native speakers are those who are born in English-speaking countries and territories like the United Kingdom, the United States, Australia. And so I would say that their first language is English. So they're born with that language, they speak that language, and other languages are secondary, or they learn later on in life. And so when they become teachers, they're qualified to become English teachers. Now let's go to non-native speakers. There are those who are probably not born in English-speaking countries and territories, and their first language is not English. English is probably their second language or third language, and they've probably learnt the language in school or in an academic setting, perhaps. It does depend, because we have to understand non-native speakers. It's like a big thing for us to understand. Like, some people are really fluent, some are not that fluent, some are native like, but when they do become teachers, they would have learnt the language, and of course they are qualified at the end of the day, inshallah.
Okay, but I have a question for you. What are the advantages of learning from a native English teacher?
Okay, there are many. For example, if you want to learn a particular accent, you like that teacher's accent, and that teacher's you want to speak, for example, with a New York accent, right? And so it's great for you to find an English teacher who's from that area. And if you want to learn informal everyday use of the language that's outside of what you learn in textbook in school, then a native English teacher would be good in terms of that, because they are exposed to slang, and then you've got colloquialism. They probably understand that a lot more. So I want to define to you first what's a colloquialism. So I'm not saying non-native speakers don't know colloquialism, but let me just first define what's colloquialism. So colloquialism is a word or phrase that's not formal, but it is common in everyday conversations, for example. And slang is also non-standard, and people speak slang in specific social groups like teenagers. So natives might be familiar with more colloquialisms and slang expressions. And so I have a bit of a story. I remember when I was about 10 or 11 in primary school in Manchester, Mrs. Riley, my teacher, I remember she told us all to clean the classroom, right? Clean up, tidy up the classroom and things like that. And my job was to clean the windows, make it really super clean. And then she said, put some elbow grease in there. And I was like, grease? I don't have any oil. Oh, is there oil on the window? I wanted to make it clean, I was thinking that. And then she said elbow grease. And then she laughed at my shocked expression at the time, and she said, so no, it just means put some hard work there. That's what it means, elbow grease. And it's not something you find in a textbook, but I appreciated that she used that, and it was natural for her to say that, and she could teach me what it meant. So that's the great thing about native English teachers. They have that. Another thing is, then I would say they do speak better in terms of intuitively. So because of that, they might be able to explain words or structures or give examples in different ways and according to their experience, I would say. All right.
Mhm.
So those are the advantages of native English teachers.
So, what are the advantages of learning from a non native English teacher?
All right. I would say that the best thing about them is that they have gone through the struggles and the challenges of learning a second language. So they understand their learners better in that way, because they have gone through that. They have that personal experience and personal connection with the struggle. Some people say that they're probably, I would not assume, but because of their struggle to get where they are, students feel more motivated, because they can see their role model there. They feel like, oh, one day I can be just like him or her, and so they are probably a great role model for the learners. So that's a thing. Another thing is that they are able to understand the native language of their students. So they're able to anticipate the problem, and they're able to answer or share the solutions in a more, I would say, understanding way. Does that make sense? They understand why the students have that kind of problem. So they're probably able to explain English grammar in a different way. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. So yeah, for me, I noticed that when I teach English and a student of ours makes a mistake, I'm able to understand why they make that mistake. It's usually because of something that, an aspect of grammar that's not in the Malay language, which is our first language. So we
Mm.
have that understanding, and we're able to explain to them why they have that problem.
Yeah.
Like the Malay language doesn't really have articles, and English
Yeah.
has articles, so that's why
Yeah.
we tend to not use articles when we speak English.
Hold on, just to explain what's an article. Article is a, an, or the, which in our language, Malay, we don't have that. It is harder
Yes,
for our
yes,
students,
a
and we
lot of
understand
languages.
why.
Yeah, so we
Yeah.
understand why, and we are able to stress on the importance of having articles when we speak English. All right, so based on this and everything that you've said today so far, which teacher would you choose? Would you choose a non-native English teacher or a native English teacher?
It really depends on your goal as a learner. So if your goal, like I said before, I've given you an example, if you want to learn a particular accent coming from that teacher, then go for a native teacher. But if you feel comfortable having a teacher who's able to speak two languages, one of them is your language, then you should choose a non-native English teacher, provided that both ones that you choose are, of course, qualified teachers. What I mean by qualified, I mean they have experience, they're really great at teaching. So you have to look at those things as well. You have to look at their teaching style. Do you like the way they teach? Do you like, do you think you can get along with this teacher? Are they approachable? Are they creative? Are they open to growth? Those are important aspects of when you choose a teacher. It doesn't matter whether they're natives or they're non-natives, because we want a teacher who's always improving themselves. That's really important. That they know that they need to update their knowledge, right? They need to really stay in touch with the ever evolving English language. It's a dynamic language. It's always changing. It's something new all the time. So a teacher needs to be aware of that and not set in their ways. They're not just stuck with their textbook, their
Mm-hmm.
outdated textbook, classroom textbook.
Yeah.
We don't want that kind of, well, if you prefer that kind of teacher, it's fine. But if you prefer teachers who stick to their 1980s textbook, then, you know, um,
Yeah.
then it's not really good, is it?
So it depends on, it doesn't just depend on whether they're a native or a non-native speaker. It depends on the personality, whether you like that kind of teaching, how they teach. Do you like somebody who's very strict, or do you like somebody who's a bit more flexible?
Yeah.
We notice that our students like to learn with us because they are able to also communicate with us in Malay, in their language. So it really depends. If you want a teacher where you feel comfortable in speaking your first language with, then go ahead, you can choose a non-native speaker. But if you want to choose a native speaker because you just like that teacher and you don't mind speaking English 100%, then a native speaker would be great for you as well. So look at the situation and what kind of teacher and what kind of style of teaching you like. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's my point of view as well. All right,
Okay.
so thank you, Madam Azimah, for joining me today. It's been a great session, and we hope to see you in our next episode. Okay, bye for now, and Assalamu alaikum.
Waalaikumsalam.